Hello everyone. This video is going to be a bit different from my normal style. Most YouTubers say that when they're about to apologize for what they did at the fan meetup, but my intentions here are a bit more pure, albeit just as insufferable. MapleStory recently held their first public test server, and I was lucky enough to get access. There's a lot of good stuff in the upcoming update, and I made sure to find and report numerous minor text annoyances, but the main thing I was interested in was the new Erel Light class. Viewers of the channel might know that I've been anticipating Erel more or less since he was revealed for MapleStory M, purely on vibes alone, so I was very passionate about getting my hands on him in a PG way and taking him out for a spin. If you want to know if Erel is good, or if you should hyperburn him for Challenger World 3 or make him a Legion champion, the answer is I don't know. Now that I've established credibility, my goal with this video is to give my first impressions of Erel Light, as well as provide some of my feedback surrounding the direction and feel of the class. If you've been to any of my streams or watched my class design video, you're probably not surprised to hear that I won't be talking about damage or game balance unless it relates to how the class feels to play. If that is what you're interested in, you're not going to find it here. This brief pre-release period for a GMS exclusive class is the only time I think these criticisms might have any chance of being heard, and that's why this video is going to be a bit lighter on editing than my usual stuff. My main purpose here is just to showcase the new class, talk about my thoughts on it, and advocate for what I think is good and bad. This entire project is a bit rushed. I'm used to taking my time with my videos, so this is the first experience I've ever had with any sort of deadline. Because of that, in addition to the overall video and audio quality kinda sucking, the majority of the footage you'll see in this video comes from my first impressions stream. And that's why it has a chat overlay. Also, because this video is intended to be critique/feedback for unreleased content, I'm going to be looking at Erel more critically than I otherwise might. If you do find yourself disagreeing with me, but you hear me out regardless, then thank you. I struggle to express how much that means to me. I'm going to do my best to articulate my points, starting with a brief overview of the class before moving on to the positives and then the negatives. I hyperburned Erel on the test server for Challenger World 3. I leveled from 30 to 180 without Terrablink before I used it to skip the last 20 levels and reach 200. Then off-stream, I leveled to 260 and unlocked 6 job using every pay-to-win event pass as well as about an hour of grinding to try out the skills. In summary, I experienced the class evolving from first job all the way up to 6th. It's far from comprehensive, but given the time frame, I was able to get a good feel for it. That's my background/credentials, I guess. So, without any more stalling, here are my thoughts on Erel Light. Erel's main gimmick is his Shining Sentinels, which are primarily spawned from 2 abilities, Sting of Roan and Fury of Roan. Each of these skills has their own animation, but if used in tandem with his main attacking skill, Spear of Lu, they can be cast without it. These Roan skills spawn a Shining Sentinel, which follows you for a brief time and will automatically seek out and attack nearby enemies. Now that I've covered every skill that Erel has, I would like to— wait, really? That's every skill? That's 3 buttons. Well, I'm being a bit reductive, but kind of only a bit. In the interest of fairness, bear with me while I explain every active skill Erel has up to 6th job. I promise this won't take long. Charge of Finn, the standard dash attack that every class has. Path of Finn, a 1-to-1 recreation of Shadower's Shadow Assault, but with 5 charges instead of 4. Spear of Light, a 60-second summon. Impulse of Kulain, a 60-second cooldown burst damage skill. Shield of Kulain, an iframe with a 2-minute cooldown. Destruction of Roan, a 1.8-second hold down burst skill. And his Origin and Ascent skills. Every other skill is a sequenceable buff on either a 60-second or 120-second cooldown. Okay, so there's not a lot of skills. That doesn't have to be a bad thing, but I think you can tell by the length of this video that I personally believe it is. But before I explain why, I want to give credit where it's due and talk about what the GMS team did well here. Visually, I think the entire Shine branch so far has been a slam dunk. Sia was an absolute triumph with her constellation-based skill effects and summons, and Erel continues that trend with his cosmic Night of Light aesthetic. I've heard people complain that both their skill effects are low res, but personally I don't see it. Despite its similarities to Dark Knight and Dawn Warrior, it doesn't really overlap with them at all. Moving on to gameplay, the combo of Spear of Lu into your two Roan skills is consistently satisfying to pull off. There's a tactileness to the way your finger has to glide across the two skills in order to successfully pull off the combo and gain Shield of Kulain's health barrier that hasn't gotten old for me at all. It's simple to do, but it always feels good. And once you reach 6th job and unlock their Hexa versions, you notice the overlapping skill effects more, which really sells the impact of that moment even further. These two skills can't be macroed together, which is an extremely good thing. The developers wanted you to perform this combo and get that feeling. Erel's origin skill, despite being absurdly long for some reason, is one of my favorites in the game. Path of Fin is his other mobility skill, which is mechanically identical to Shadow Assault. Like most of Erel's skills, it has a 60-second cooldown, which gives you a static window to spend the charges before you regain them all at once. The inclusion of Path of Fin, as well as the fact that there's no way to use it while stationary, does a bit to spice up Erel's filler in between burst cycles. Which, as I will spend the majority of this video harping on about, is very much needed for the class. I wish it was emphasized further, maybe if it ever gets a Hexa version. That about covers it for the positives, and now I'm gonna be really obnoxious and talk about where I think Erel falls short. But before I do, I want to get in front of an argument I expect a lot of people to make. I do not want Erel to be difficult or complicated just for the sake of it. I do want him to be engaging. I'm okay with Erel being on the simple end of classes, but I think he has fundamental issues that prevent him from being enjoyable on almost any level that isn't visual. The core of playing the class revolves around properly weaving your two Roan skills in between Spear of Lu to skip their animations and keep them on cooldown. The passive component of Shield of Kulain rewards you even further for doing this correctly with a 10% HP barrier. I previously mentioned how enjoyable performing the Roan combo is, which is a good thing because it's more or less the only thing Erel has going on. This results in a play pattern where you're constantly waiting for the next 10-second interval so you can perform this combo before returning to a state of attacking with a single button. Every 60 seconds, you have your mini burst, which is made up of some of your 5th job skills as well as your hyper skills, including Impulse of Kulain. Impulse of Kulain is a simple burst skill on a 60-second cooldown, which I personally find incredibly aesthetically lacking for something that is meant to be one of your heaviest hitting skills.
Alright, let's try out this new ability. It's our 60-second big burst thing. Let's try it out. I'm gonna be honest, kinda underwhelming.
I found it disappointing in terms of both visuals and sound. The animation plays out extremely quickly, and the sound lacks any real impact. I think making the impact sound a bit more bassy would go a long way here. And this might be a bit more controversial, but I think extending the length of the animation and adding a brief movement lock would give this move the punchiness it deserves. Alternatively, I'd like to see the cooldown dropped to 30, 20, or even 15 seconds to still allow it to line up with your 60-second buff window, but also enable it to spice up your filler a bit more. With this lower cooldown, I think its less over-the-top animation would fit better than the current 60-second one it has now. The dull filler windows really encapsulate my issues with Erel from a gameplay perspective, so I'd like to circle back to the aforementioned Roan skills and go a bit more in-depth on a change I'd like to see for them that would improve the feel of the class without adding any more buttons. I mentioned before that the physical motions your hand has to perform in order to properly do the Roan combo is fun, satisfying, and the best part of the class. But it also has the consequence of making these two skills feel identical. On a class with only 3 buttons of filler, having 2 of those buttons do the same thing is a problem. I'm not exaggerating when I say they do the same thing. At 6th Job, when the tooltips change, you can look at them and directly see that they have identical functions. They do the same damage and have the same properties. In my opinion, this is a massive wasted opportunity, so here's my solution to this problem that doesn't involve adding any new skills. The biggest culprit contributing to the homogeneity of these skills is their shared cooldown, so I propose that we desync them in order to make them stand out from each other. Sting of Roan is the 4th job skill, so I suggest they make it the stronger of the two and give it a 15-second cooldown, while leaving Fury of Roan the same way it is right now at 10 seconds. The result of this one simple change would be that your filler is broken up into cycles, where, assuming you're using each skill the moment it comes up, some cycles would involve both skills back to back before naturally leading into cycles where you use one, then the other, and then both again, and then it repeats. Suddenly, from just this one change, you're looking at both skills as their own part in a greater toolkit, while also looking forward to the moments where you do get to perform them both back to back. If this change were to be implemented, I'd like to see Shield of Kulain's barrier effect increased, maybe to 20% or something. I know this is a bit hard to visualize, but I don't think this massively impacts the difficulty of the class. I do think it would squeeze more value out of these buttons though, and if I were to only pick one thing to change about Erel, it would be this. This change, along with lowering the cooldown on Impulse of Kulain, would make Erel feel significantly more dynamic without having to add any new art assets. To me, it would be a straight-up improvement. Neither Sting or Fury of Roan is able to be cooldown skipped, but they do work with cooldown reduction hats. The cooldown hats feel mandatory if you want to have fun here, but I'd like to see them be skippable as well. It might get a bit spammy, but it sounds cool. I've enjoyed the time I've spent playing Erel, but I can't shake the feeling that if he just had one more skill, he would feel so much better. While I'm sympathetic to the difficulty of coming up with new assets, it's impossible for me to ignore the fact that even if these changes were to be implemented as I described them above, Erel would still feel like he's missing something. I understand and respect the vision behind wanting him to be straightforward with fewer individual buttons than the average class, but I really truly believe Erel needs some kind of low cooldown filler skill, even in addition to my proposed change to Impulse of Kulain. My gut reaction is just to make Eternal Light in 5th Job need to be triggered manually, but again, I really would like to just see another skill altogether. Ideally, one in which Erel himself actually attacks, because the majority of his skill set revolves around hiring magic ghosts to do the work for him, to the point that you rarely get to see him doing anything himself. Even his big key down 2-minute burst skill just has him get overshadowed by a big ghost. Whatever the change is, he needs something that exists outside the Lu into Roan combo. In summary, Erel looks cool, but he feels incomplete. Decouple the Roan skills, fix Impulse's sound and visuals, and maybe add a low cooldown filler skill on top of everything else. If that's all you wanted to hear, then I hope you got something out of this video, and I hope you're looking forward to the new update as much as I am. Bye! Goodbye, thank you for watching. Are they gone? See, I knew it. MapleStory players don't care about class design. They don't care about aesthetics or theming or story. But you're different. You're like me. We share the same autism. You felt it too, right? Something is wrong here. It's not about cooldowns or damage. It's something more primal, fundamental. It's as if the very foundation is rotting. Tabami just can't make a short video. I can't let this go. We have to talk about it. Up till now, I've talked about my criticisms of Erel purely from a gameplay perspective, and how I think those problems could easily be solved just by changing cooldowns and damage values. In other words, I think solving those problems is perfectly reasonable. Now, I want to switch gears a bit and talk about my criticisms of Erel's gameplay from a thematic perspective. The rest of this video is for the lunatics who care about how a class makes you feel. From here on out, none of this feedback is valuable for the reality we live in. What follows is the Erel Light Manifesto. In the Summer is Coming Inkwell note, Erel was revealed alongside the description that he would feature dynamic combat centered around linked attacks between his skills and those of the Sentinels, enabling you to unleash powerful attacks depending on the situation. I'm going to interpret this to be the core principle behind Erel's GMS design. To be blunt, if this was the goal, I think Erel is a failure. As I explained earlier, Erel is a very rigid class. You need to be watching your cooldowns because you need to be spamming out Sentinels as often as possible. This goes against the spirit of combat being dynamic. It's just repetition of a 10-second loop. To an extent, this is an inevitability when any game structures itself around burst cycles and cooldowns. At least in MapleStory, however, I've never seen it exemplified more than Erel Light. Ostensibly, Erel Light is meant to be a commander of an army of shining sentinels. As per the Inkwell note description, he's meant to be fighting in combination with these soldiers. That means, at minimum, playing Erel Light should mean you care about the sentinels. Currently, you do not. The Sentinels are just free damage. They pop out when you do the only thing there is to do, and you don't even notice them most of the time. They don't really do anything. Before his release, I think a lot of people expected him to be a traditional summon class akin to Corsair, where he would place these Sentinels down and manage them. I actually think them following you and auto-targeting is a cool subversion of that archetype and goes a long way in making you feel like you're leading an army as opposed to just managing them. However, that doesn't change the fact that they are basically just Ho Young clones that show up, do their damage, and immediately leave. There is no performing linked attacks with them, and there is certainly no depending on the situation. In my mind, when I imagine linked attacks with the Sentinels, I envision an army that goes off to attack someone independently, and you would have your own skill that maybe teleports to one of them, attacks with them, and then consumes them. I hate to say it, I think a lot of MapleStory players don't want to hear this, but I honestly think Erel should have had a class gauge where you could independently track each soldier up to a cap of maybe 3, and then his whole kit would play around them. Erel's soldiers should be like Adele's swords, where they operate independently, but you have some degree of control over them. Anything less than that fails to capture the feeling of fighting alongside them. Also, why in God's name is his 60-second summon a giant fuck-off spear instead of a big chunky soldier dude who you slap down on the ground to hold a dedicated spot for 60 seconds? I kinda touched on this earlier with the keydown skill overshadowing him, but the majority of Erel's skills kind of don't have him doing anything. Spear of Lu conjures a big spear from the sky that attacks enemies. His soldiers obviously just attack for him. Impulse of Kulain drops needles from the sky that poke enemies, and his big key down burst skill outsources the majority of his damage to a ghost. It doesn't feel like Erel is fighting alongside the Sentinels so much as they're just protecting him. He doesn't feel capable in his own right. The Roan skills do look like he himself is swinging the spear, but these animations are designed to be skipped in favor of Spear of Lu. Let Erel kill a man. Erel's current iteration is still absolutely salvageable, but if I were to be made God King of GMS, he would be completely reworked from the ground up, cause I think his current design does not convey the fantasy they seemed to be trying to sell. Also, I'd give everyone Universal Cash Shop Vac Pets and 15 more minutes of recess. All in all, I'm still gonna be playing Erel Light. Even though I think the gameplay is missing something and the design doesn't live up to the vision we were sold, I still think the vibes are incredible. Magic spear-wielding paladin with skill names straight out of Mabinogi is hard to pass up for me. Maybe that makes me a hypocrite, but at least you can't say I don't care. Maybe in the future, the holes in his kit can be patched up with future 6-job nodes. So, what'd you think of the video? Like I said at the top, it was kind of experimental. I used a lot more random B-roll, and I tried some new stuff with the audio, so let me know what you think. The turnaround on this one was certainly faster, but a lot of people who are better and smarter than me still beat me to the punch. I tried not to look at other people's opinions on the class, but now I'm gonna go check out what other people think, and I'd like to hear your thoughts as well. Do you care that he's simple? Do you think he's just blue Dark Knight? Do you think it's stupid that I care so much about the way the classes play in this Skinnerbox mushroom game? I want to hear it all. Thank you so much for watching if you stuck it out this far, and I will see you in the next one. Maybe.
Because it's fun to blow up, guys. Snail is still hungry? Yeah, he's not getting fed. Sorry. We do not respect animals.